My house is really old. It's about 250 years old and is 3 stories tall. The bottom floor used to serve as a barn, and the man who owned it lived on the second and later added on a third himself. The house was vacant for 9 years before my family moved in, and there was a lot of rumors that it was haunted. People called it the 100 house. The house number is 100. And I lived there for about 6 years on the second floor, before moving up to the third after one of my brothers went away for school. The room I'm in now is a really big room that I share with my brother Jacob. It's divided into 3 parts, my side, his side, and a common area in the middle that's like a little living room. One night, my best friend Alicia was over, and she convinced me to watch The Exorcism of Emily Rose. I'm a chicken, so we watched it on my side with the lights on. I didn't want to watch it at first, because it's based on a true story, The Exorcism of Annalise Michel, and I fully believe in demons. Anyway, not a lot happens in the movie until the end, when the exorcism actually takes place. We got to this part of the movie around 3 a.m. As soon as the scary stuff started happening, the lights went out in the room for a few seconds. We freaked out and paused the movie. I called the house phone downstairs to ask my grandpa if we had a power surge or anything, but he said everything was fine down there. Thinking it was just the 3rd floor, I called my mom, as she also lives on the 3rd floor, but everything was fine for her too. So it was just my room. Alicia and I are super close. We talk constantly, whether it's over text or call or whatever, and that summer, it wasn't uncommon for us to have overnight FaceTime calls, where we would just leave the call going when we went to sleep, but we don't do that anymore because of this summer. We were on FaceTime at night, just talking and hanging out, when Alicia would hang up and call back. When I asked her why she did that, she said she heard a weird static and it scared her. After about a week of her doing that at least once, sometimes more, every single call, I asked her why it was so scary. It was just some static after all. She said, "Because, Mal, it sounds like someone's talking." This is especially creepy because a lot of the time when it happened, we were sitting in dead silence. I could tell she wasn't messing with me. I've known her for 13 years and can tell when she's very serious. But I didn't fully believe her until it happened to me. We were on an overnight FaceTime call and both of us had gone to sleep when the static started on my end. It was loud enough for me to wake up, and after a few seconds, I heard what she was talking about. It sounded like someone was saying, "No," or "Go," or something like that. I freaked out and hung up and called Alicia back on regular call and told her what happened. I checked the time. It was 3:07 a.m. Like I said, I live in an old house. About a year ago, we were having trouble with animals getting into the crawl space above my room. My mom and grandpa went up there and sealed off the hole they were getting into, and periodically checked it. Every now and then, I can hear them scratching, trying to get in, but it's always on the wall outside. Like I said, my mom and grandpa always check it to make sure they can't get in. But sometimes I hear scratching on the ceiling in the middle of the room over the common area. In that part, the roof is pretty steep and there's no crawl space up there. It's just the roof. Nothing can get in. It happens more often than I'd like to acknowledge. On another occasion, Alicia was sleeping over and we were just sitting on the couch watching Supernatural. The couch in the common area sits right up against a bolted shut door that leads out to the balcony outside. So we were just chilling when we suddenly heard a really loud bang from right outside. It sounded like something had hit the door behind us. We paused the show and huddled really close together. We started hearing scratching from the center of the room where there's no crawl space. We were like that for a minute when Alicia suddenly gasped. I asked her what was wrong and she looks me dead in the eyes and said, I just heard a really loud growl in my ear. Like I said, I know Alicia. She's my best friend. I can tell when she's messing with me and when she's really serious and scared. I live in the room, so while I was pretty freaked out, hearing weird things is kind of common for me. So I downloaded a spirit box app on my phone to try to calm her down, not believing that it would work. If you don't know, a spirit box is a device that cycles through a bunch of different radio frequencies really quickly. It kind of just sounds like white noise and is supposed to help spirits communicate. I didn't think this would do anything, and I downloaded it only to prove to Alicia that everything was fine. So I started it up and I said, "Hi, my name is Mallory. Can you repeat my name back to me?" Needless to say, we were both freaked out when we heard my name 3 times within the span of a minute in the same voice. It's creepier too, because I recognized the voice. It was the same one I heard in the static over the FaceTime a couple months ago. We freaked out and moved to my side of the room and turned on the Passion of the Christ, because we felt that we needed a little Jesus. Another time when Alicia was sleeping over, I had woke up before her around 9 a.m. I didn't want to bother her, so I was just on my phone when I heard a rustling from Jacob's side of the room. It sounded like some Legos were being shuffled around. Yes, my 20-year-old brother has Legos. We're both nerds. I had remembered that Jacob had to work early in the morning, so, confused, I got up to see if he was still home. I went to his side, but nobody was there. I looked at his desk to see that a Lego set had fallen over into the loose pieces, on its own. I ran back to my side, woke up Alicia, and we left to go get breakfast. This next little part didn't happen at my house, but it did happen during the summer and is creepy enough to include. One night, I was staying at Alicia's, and we were just laying in bed watching a movie. Her room sits right above her basement where her brother lives. We started hearing banging on her floor coming from the basement. I freaked out a little, but Alicia said it was probably just her brother messing with us. I reminded her that it was the middle of the night and her brother was sick, so he was most likely sleeping. She texted him asking, "Hey, was that you banging on the ceiling?" Keep in mind, she doesn't say anything. She just texted him. From across the room, her Alexa turned on and said,
"Yes, it was me."
When I tell people this, they suggest that she sent a message to her Alexa to say this, but I watched her text her brother. It only went to him. Besides, she's tried to prank me with that before. If you send a message to an Alexa, it would say, "Message from Alicia," and then the message. It legitimately turned on by itself. I freaked out and checked the time because it just couldn't get creepier, right? It was 3:12 a.m. This is a little weirder because her house isn't old at all. Her dad and brothers built it themselves. It's a running joke between us that the demon from my room followed us there that night. In the common area, if you sit in the recliner, you have a perfect view of the door to our room. Our door doesn't latch, so to open it from the outside, you just have to push on it. Jacob told me that one night when I wasn't home, he was sitting in the recliner watching a movie with the door all the way closed. He couldn't even see the outline of the light outside. Suddenly, the door opened about 6 inches and then slammed back shut. He ignored it, and it happened about 5 times in the span of 10 minutes. I wouldn't have believed him, but a couple nights later, the same thing happened to me. When I was around the ages of 8 to 10, I lived in a house with my mother and father. This home was a small 2-unit, and we lived on the bottom unit. I should also mention that there were some intense addicts living above us, and that my father, also an addict, was familiar with them. My father and mother were on and off a few times. My father was an intense addict, and my mother was an addict as well, but not as bad as my father. My father was known to steal things, rob people, and be disloyal to his family and friends, especially my mother. I had my own room in this house, and my parents shared a separate bedroom next to mine. I slept on the bottom bunk of my bunk bed. Parallel to my bed was a door that opened inward, and across my room was my desk, some shelves, and 2 large windows. My bedroom door led out to the living room, which also had the door to my parents' room. Before the encounter, I always felt a depressed, negative energy in the home. I don't know if it was caused by the move-in with my addict father, or if it was the energy in the home, but I just never felt safe. One night, I was asleep and was awoken suddenly. No noise awoke me. I just suddenly felt a presence in my room. I've always been a deep sleeper ever since I was a kid, and I don't regularly wake up in the dead of the night for no reason. I glanced over at my window across the room, and I see a shadowy figure come through the window. The figure seems to walk to the end of the bed, next to the door. The figure then takes shape into a young teenaged boy. I estimate he was around the age of 12 to 15, wearing dirtied 1850s clothes, staring at me with pitted black eyes. The figure walked through the door without opening it, and after it left, I ran to my parents' room for comfort. Both of my parents were asleep, and I slept in their room for the rest of the night. We moved out a few months later, and I had very minimal contact with my father after moving out. A few weeks ago, I was talking to my mom about that experience. She remembered how freaked out I was, and she thought it was just my dad stealing things from my room. But that doesn't make much sense, due to the fact that I ran to my parents' room after seeing the figure, and my father was fast asleep.